Hello and welcome to the Bucket Lister podcast. Join your host Keith Crockford along with special guests who have travelled the world, here to share stories of their adventures and plenty of inspo to add to your bucket list. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bucket Lister podcast. I am your host, Keith Crockford, and today I am chatting with Gerald Ami. Hello, Gerald.
Hi, Keith. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And I've been looking forward to recording this podcast for a few weeks now. And I just want to give you a little bit of a background. And this podcast is coming out the week we are launching a new trip. And several months ago, I received an email from someone saying, have you ever thought about Mauritius to add to your catalogue? And I to start with, didn't really sort of think anything too much of it. And then they asked, can I send you through an itinerary? And I was like, yeah, send it through. That's fine. And it suddenly dawned on me that Mauritius was one of those destinations that was going to surprise me, a bit like the Maldives in our real Maldives trip, in the sense that my expectations of Mauritius were that, again, it was this honeymoon luxury destination that people go to as companies, and we're an adventure travel company, and therefore it wouldn't sort of fit our demographic. But when I looked at the itinerary, I was like, this is exactly the itinerary for our demographic. So we've been working with Gerald and his team to put this itinerary together to launch. And we thought, what a great way to give you guys some inspiration to think about this trip than getting Gerald onto the podcast today to let us know why you should be adding Mauritius to your bucket list. So firstly, Gerald, thank you for the itinerary. Thank you for getting in touch. And also thank you for coming onto the podcast today. But do you want to just give a little bit of a background first about how you ended up in Mauritius?
Hi, Keith. Thank you so much for having me. It's really it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be able to be here and to share about my beautiful country with your listeners. So yeah, thank you for that. And how I ended up in Mauritius, basically, I'm Mauritian, born and raised and in the soul. So Mauritius is my country, and I had the opportunity to travel around a little bit, and then came back and since the very beginning I had this desire from within to really show Mauritius, to show my country in a different way to the perception that, generally speaking, people have. And you just mentioned it, when you say Mauritius to some people, those who knows, they think immediately about, the beaches, white sand beaches and palm trees and beautiful resorts and all inclusive. And my country has so much more to that to offer. And that was the desire for me to create a travel company and to bring people to discover the land and to see it through the eyes of local people, of Mauritians. So here we are, and now we have created a beautiful 11-day itinerary for the bucket lister, and I'm pretty sure you will love it, guys.
So, I mean, what was adventure travel on your radar when you were younger? Have you seen adventure travel come in the last sort of decade, or have you always, did you always see Mauritius before as this luxury destination? When did you realize that Mauritius was something else?
So I am someone who grew up very, very closely with the tourism and hospitality industry. Like almost most of my family worked directly or indirectly in the tourism or hospitality industry in Mauritius. So I have seen it evolve throughout the years. And I would say there have been a shift that started significantly 10 years ago, I would say, where we decided to focus a little bit more on sustainable tourism first, and above all, back then it was not yet adventure travel, but more sustainable tourism and authentic tourism, like how we connect travelers to the communities they are traveling into and to the people they're going to meet. And then throughout the years, there has been this appetite, I would say, for both the travelers and from ourselves to like go deeper into the land, go deeper into the country, and that's what opened this horizon of adventure travel for us, where now we can like, we go hiking, canyoning, and kayaking, and all of that type of things.
And what do you think makes the landscape in Mauritius so unique compared to other destinations around you?
Yeah. So Mauritius is a volcanic island of 2,000 square kilometers, a bit lost in the southern Indian Ocean. Like if you look at the globe, you would probably miss it, but you need to look very carefully. Like you look at Madagascar and you go a little bit to the right and you see a few dots on the map. That's us. So its geography itself makes it very different. Being volcanic, being so small, it makes it very manageable for adventurers to explore. Being volcanic makes the island have like a very particular type of landscape in itself naturally. So you will have the coastal region where you will have a different type of climate, and the more you enter inside the land, you have different type of climate and microclimates also. So at a point in time, you can be in the north and it's completely sunny, but at the same time, in the middle of the island, it's completely rainy and thunderstorm at the same time. So just to tell you that we have different microclimates. And this makes it very interesting. So in one day, you can be exploring one side of the island and experiencing a type of climate. And on the same day, on the other side of the island, you are experiencing a completely different type of climate. And this has sculpted the landscape of Mauritius. It gives us like lush tropical forest landscape in the south, and then you go towards the north and it's big plains of open space. So it makes it a very beautiful playground for adventurers.
So let's dive into then the itinerary that we've crafted for our first trip over there, for our Trailblazer trip. Do you want to just talk us through the itinerary and what the group are going to be doing whilst they're in Mauritius?
Sure. So we co-created the itinerary with you. Like we took on board your ideas and what you know about your guests, and then we blended it with our knowledge of the land and what we would like to show to your guests. So we came up with an 11-day, 10 nights, 11-day itinerary, and we split it into 2 different stays because we want to show you the different landscapes of Mauritius. You remember I was telling you about microclimates. So those microclimate molds the landscape differently. And with 11 days, it's perfect for us to be able to show you the different landscape by having 2 bays. We're gonna start with a stay on the west coast, one of my favorite personally, because the west coast is warm and kind of drier than the other regions of Mauritius, so we can expect beautiful, clear weather, very nicely warm without being stuffy. So it's also, I chose it because it's also like it's in a very local fisherman village called Tamarin. The vibe is really nice, the local and the travelers mixed together very, very harmoniously in a coastal village. It's very nice. It's small. So we're gonna start our stay there, And the idea is to arrive to Mauritius and to really start living Mauritius as a local straight away. So then we start our adventure, kayaking. We're going to kayak the river of Tamarin, actually, very iconic, on a nice beach. There are also very much exposure with the local population and the local people. A very nice kayaking adventure that takes us up the river. We're going to explore a bit the coastline there and see how the coastline will be a little bit different from what we will keep exploring later on during the trip. So a very nice and smooth entrée en matière, as we would say in French. Then the next day starts a little bit the core of the adventure. Then we're gonna, after kayaking the first day, we're gonna canyon down waterfalls the second day. So we're gonna take you at the heart of Mauritius in a place called Les Sept Cascades, which in French means 7 waterfalls. It's a beautiful region in the middle of the country, molded again by water and years of nature doing its job. So you are in the middle of a canyon and you look at 7 beautifully cascading waterfalls, each of them at different heights. We're gonna do the first 4 of them, and it's a beautiful experience. It's a lot of fun. It's also a moment of introspection, I would say. For me, it is every single time I step in front of the waterfall, I'm ready to go down. I'm like, take a deep breath, be with myself, align myself, and then boom, let's go. And then a few seconds later, you're hanging between the sky and a crystal clear water pool at the bottom, and you're just hanging there and you're looking at an incredibly beautiful forest in front of you. Sometimes I wish it would be a bit longer, and then boom, you are down in the water and you're swimming out, and you just had a beautiful moment with yourself and nature. It's really, really nice. Then we keep going. After canyoning, we have also incorporated purposefully some free days in the trip for people just to relax and be there, in the destination. And then after that, we're going to go hiking again, and this time we're going to hike an iconic peak in Mauritius called Le Morne. Le Morne has a lot of history with it, as the country actually. So Mauritius was formerly completely uninhabited, and then started a wave of colonization, first by the Dutch, who settled in the country for around 100 years, and then they left, and then arrived the French back in the days where the British Empire and the French Empire was kind of trying to have control over the Indian Ocean. So those two superpowers were trying to get the strategic position of Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. And throughout those periods, there have been, so of course, men started settling. So we had the Dutch, then the French, then the British. And in between, we had slaves brought from Africa and Madagascar and Mozambique. And also indentured laborers brought by the British from India to Mauritius. And then came the traders from Asia, who also was trading between Asia and Mauritius. So all of these made that there was, throughout the years, different type of people from different part of the world that was now mixed in this little piece of land lost in the Indian Ocean. And that's what creates Mauritius today. So to go back to the story of Le Morne, at the end of slavery, legend has it that some slaves marooned up to Le Morne and was hiding up there. And they didn't know that slavery was now over. And apparently, when some officials were coming up to tell them, guys, now you are free man. They didn't know that was going to happen, and they thought they were coming to recapture them, and they chose to jump. So Le Morne is a UNESCO World Heritage Site commemorating the history of slavery in Mauritius. So hiking up Le Morne has also a very deep connection with what Mauritius is today. So it's a quite demanding hike, but every step of the way, once you reach up, every step of that hike is worth it.
Amazing.
And yeah, and Le Morne will close our chapter in the west, because the next day we're gonna head north. We're gonna head north in a very nice setup. We're gonna head to the village of Grand Bay, very lively village, also coastal village. We're gonna stay in a local, locally owned chain hotel, and then our next excursion out will be a mountain biking excursion in a nature reserve. Very nice, a bit thrilling, pumping a bit of adrenaline. We're going to explore the landscape, the rocky landscape of the northeast in a nature reserve called Brado. And then the next day, we're going to head to my very, very cherished and favorite part of the island, which is the southern coast. And there we're going to do a beautiful coastal trek. And the south will showcase the radical contrast, the brute contrast of the landscape that we would have been seeing from the beginning of the trip. And now we will be in the south, and we will see like a little bit the rawness of Mauritius, I would say. There, it's completely open to the south of the Indian Ocean. There is no coral barrier. And there it is the waves and the power of the ocean that is shaping the landscape. Beautiful volcanic cliffs is merging with coastal forest and dunes landscape of the beach. A very beautiful scenery, and there we will trek along that scenery. We will enjoy the ocean, refresh in it, and continue our adventure until we jump onto the next day, which will be our final land-based activity and our final hike, where we will hike another iconic peak, this time in the very center of the island. And once we reach the top, it's just 360 degrees view over the whole of Mauritius. The peak is called Le Pouce, and also a very beautiful hike/trail, because kind of long to get there. But again, every step of the way, super, super worth it.
In terms of fitness levels, then, like, where do you think people need to be to come and enjoy this trip with the activities that we've put in it?
Yeah, if you're someone who were used to hike, let's say, at least once a month, and you are comfortable with it, it is not something that you are afraid of, this trip is perfectly fit for you. And then from there on, if you are someone who practices sport, or if you are someone who is relatively active, I would say this trip is perfectly fit for you. If you are someone that have never hiked or been out in nature, it might be a little bit a stretch, mainly when you are going to do activities like canyoning. You're standing in front of a waterfall and it's a 15-meter drop to start with. You know, it's mentally challenging. And we do have, as I said, for example, Le Morne is I would rate it as intermediate. The first half is intermediate, and the second part is a little bit more advanced, because it's almost a vertical climb, which makes it a vertical descent. So I would say, yeah. So if you're used to being outdoor and exploring, this trip is perfect for you.
Perfect. Which of the activities do your guests get most excited about?
Believe it or not, they get most excited about the canyoning for both reason of like, oh, I don't really know if I want to do it, but I want to try. and then also the hikes of the mountains, very excited, because at the end of the day you get rewarded with beautiful views of the landscape. So I would say those two are the things that our guests get the most excited about, even though they know it's a bit demanding. But we're here to accompany them, and that's kind of I believe it's very reassuring to them to see us with them. And I have seen people atop the waterfall and just needing to look back and see us smiling to them, and it's like, okay, we got this, and boom, you get it done.
And what's your personal favorite part of this itinerary? Like, what's the bit that you just love going to do time and time again?
Oh, difficult question. Very difficult one. My personal favorite is the southern coastline exploration, because I'm personally in love with the south of Mauritius. It's so beautiful. The landscape is, regardless of the weather or even during the night, it's so beautiful. And if you have the opportunity to be there at night, the views of the stars at night is absolutely gorgeous. But even during the day, when we will explore it, you will see it's so beautiful. So I would say my personal favorite, number one, would be the south. And if I can choose a second one, it would be the hike of Le Monde Mountain.
Mauritius has such a, as you explained earlier, such a diverse cultural mix. Like, how will our guests experience this on the trip?
Ah, nice. Indeed, we have a mix of cultures that draws from the different population that settled in the country, be it from India or European descent or African descent or Asian descent, and all of that is being mixed, and we can see it in the language we have. We speak English, French, Bhojpuri, Cantonese. Not me personally, but like generally speaking, Mauritian. The food. We draw our cuisine from Indian influence, European influence, African influence. All of this is getting mixed. So you have it in the people itself. Like when you look around in Mauritius, you will see different type of people, and all blending perfectly well together. And thankfully, so while you are in Mauritius, you will experience that diversity in the people you will connect with. All those different guides who will show you Mauritius from their perspective, from their lens, I would say, from the different type of cuisine that you will be able to experience, from also the different communities you will see when moving around Mauritius, from the north to the south. When we go deep into the heart of Mauritius, you will be able to be in contact with like different type of communities, and that's how I think that the guests will be able to really connect with the heart of Mauritius.
And talk us through the cuisine. What is the cuisine like in Mauritius?
So very, very famous dish, I would say, in Mauritius, that everybody loves, and you can have it like at every corner of the street. We call it the farata or roti. It's a flat dough of flour into which you can fill it up with different type of stews. It can be a fish curry, it can be a vegetable curry, it can be anything else that you like to eat, and you just fill it up, and then you can condiment it with some pickles or pickled chili if you are adventurous enough. And this is delicious. This is like the go-to of every Mauritian at any point in time during the day. Have a little hunger, I'm gonna get a roti or two, actually. So that's one. And then you have, for example, when we cook meat, but we marinate it in spices that we call, for example, masala or tandoor. All of this comes from India, but we have tropicalized it. It will not be the same curry that you will eat in India. It would be tropicalized, Mauritianized, I would say, in different ways. Either we would add different spices that we have here locally, or we will slightly change the recipe by adding things that we have here and we like, coconut milk or things like that. And then you can also eat completely something that you would find in Europe, like completely European, but it's here. It's made by a Mauritian cook, and it has been completely tropicalized and can be something as I don't know, as basic as a European dish that you will have there in Europe.
Excellent. I mean, how does Mauritius ensure that there isn't any over tourism and that tourism is sustainable and is there to benefit the local communities?
Yeah, nice. A few years ago, there was a study launched by the authorities about our carrying capacity, and I think they were saying that we could still target 1.5 million tourists a year and be within our carrying capacity. So far, we are doing around 1.something million of tourists a year. So according to those studies, we are still within our carrying capacity. However, we need to acknowledge that so far, everything we have done, not all of it was great. Like we can see visibly, we have a situation with coastal erosion. We have a situation with dying corals. And we also have a situation with, for example, now it's less and less, but like I kind of remember within the last 10 years where some promoters decided to start new hotel projects, and local communities were being asked to move. So thankfully it didn't happen, and this has stopped now. But to tell you that there are a lot of things that are being done to go into the right direction. However, there are already things that has been done that we need to rectify. Like, for example, I was telling you about the coastal erosion thing. So what we're trying to do is, like, first of all, create an awareness of that towards our guests, like not only telling them about it, but telling them that, okay, we know about it and this is what we're doing. For example, when we take our guests kayaking the coastlines or in the mangroves, we take very much care explaining to them the importance of those ecosystems, those mangroves, how important it is, because it has a direct, significant impact on coastal erosion. And the more people knows about it, the more people can care about it, and the more action we can catalyze towards it.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of, your location, obviously the Maldives have a huge rubbish problem in terms of, their location, things getting washed up, plastics from the ocean. Do you see that where you are, or are you not susceptible so much to that?
Quite unfortunately, we are. We are also susceptible to that. Similar to the Maldives, we are small island states. We are quite vulnerable to minute changes in climatic conditions. A little bit less than the Maldives, but still, for example, we are protected by a coral barrier. Not so long ago, there was a huge earthquake in Japan that raises the level of the sea significantly. And thankfully, thanks to the coral barriers, the island was protected. Now we are facing the problem of dying corals, which is influenced by many things. Some things are out of our control, a little bit, for example, like global warming and this having an impact on our coral barrier, but also us in the country, our type of agriculture, and something as I would say a little bit silly, like if you just use a sunscreen that is not reef safe, you are just directly killing corals. I mean, this is a very simple action that every individual can take, and this is also something we encourage and ask our guests to consider when they are coming to visit countries like us, because every action counts, and as little as it is, it does count at the end of the day. When you accumulate it together, 1 million people a year doing the right thing is very impactful.
Yeah. And in terms of, you as a company, like, one of our big things is, trying to move away from single-use plastics and things like that. Like, how are you, it's very difficult for a lot of accommodation providers and things like that. But how are you sort of dealing with that situation?
Yeah, thankfully we have chosen partners that are committed to sustainable practices in their operation as much as they can. None of us are perfect. We are all trying, and sometimes we see like, we can really do better in certain aspects of our operations, but we have chosen all our partners, and that since the very beginning of our company, like when we started 10 years ago, really based on how sustainable their practices are and how committed they are to sustainability, be it in supporting the local economy, be it in the eco-friendliness of their activities or operation. One of them is single-use plastic. Right now, none of our partners use single-use plastic, and I would say that generally speaking, in Mauritius, the main players that are driving the hospitality industry, they have since 10 years ago started that shift towards sustainable tourism and sustainable and responsible tourism. I would say, where they have completely banished single-use plastic, use local workforce, and also participate in funding conservations. So on our end, that's what we've been doing for the past 10 years, like curating those type of partners. And today we can craft trips that we can like have the peace of mind. Okay, we are dealing with people that are genuinely committed to operate in a responsible way.
Amazing. We spoke about accommodation there, and obviously accommodation is a big part of any trip that people go on. And us as a company, we don't want to be using, large hotels, etc. Like, what can the clients expect? Obviously, we're going across 2 sites on this trip, but what can the clients expect from an accommodation perspective on this experience?
Yeah, we've chosen 2 very nice accommodations for your guests for this trip. The first one, as I said, is on the West Coast. Is small, family-owned, family-run boutique hotel. Now it's 2nd generation running the hotel. It has a lot of local charm, and it's right on a very, very nice little cove. So that's for the first accommodation. And actually, the little bit of story about this place is that during COVID they almost closed down, and they actually kept pushing and and made it through, and now made it out of it a little bit unscathed, I would say. And you will meet the owner when you're there. She's an absolutely beautiful lady, super kind-hearted, with hospitality at heart. Also wants to show her country as a local, and she's doing it very beautifully with her small property in Tamarin. So I think you're gonna like that one. And then the second one is owned by a local chain in Mauritius, and I chose it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's locally owned, employing the chain itself has 3 other properties. So we'll be staying the one in the north. Local company, very close to the Mauritian community, employing thousands of local Mauritians, and not only just employing them, but also participating into growing them as part of our hospitality industry. So that's why I chose those 2 properties. I think they are very local. They participate positively into taking the industry forward in Mauritius in the right way, and they are 2 different offerings in you will see in terms of ambiance and in terms of location, but both very, very local.
Amazing. Well, Gerald, thank you ever so much for coming on to the podcast today. I am super excited about this trip, and I think anyone listening to this podcast and hearing your enthusiasm of Mauritius, they're going to want to add it to their bucket lists as well. Just to finish off, if you had to sum up Mauritius in 3 words for adventurers, what would they be?
Ooh, I would say, well, maybe more than 3 words. I would say Mauritius is the place where you can start your day at top of a mountain, looking at the sunrise, and have lunch by the side of the river, and then sipping a cocktail in front of an incredible sunset on a beautiful local beach.
What more can you wish for? I mean, you got me at cocktail, to be fair. That was the bit that got me. Gerald, again, thanks ever so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And I can't wait to be out in Mauritius and meet you with a group of bucket list clients. Everyone listening, hope you have enjoyed this episode and it has the potential to add Mauritius to your bucket list from an adventure travel perspective. And I think it's one of those destinations that needs to be visited and needs to change our thought process on it. Because if before this episode you were like me, you were thinking, well, it's just a honeymoon destination and with all-inclusive resorts, then hopefully Gerard's managed to convince you that that's not the case, and it is worthwhile visiting. That's it from me this week. I'll be back next week with another episode of the Bucket Lister podcast. But until then, thanks very much. And thank you very much again, Gerald.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bucket Lister podcast. Be sure to click follow to be alerted for next week's episode. For more travel inspiration, check us out at www.thebucketlistcompany.co.uk or follow us on socials. See you next time.